think he's about power, adulation and greed. The way that he treats his own people, democracy, puts us all at risk, and it scares me really as to what he is doing to the world.
He's a great leader. Obviously, the world is devoid of great leaders. The world's been a safer place since Trump's been in office.
We do not give in to this kind of bullying. We're not going to hand over parts of our sovereignty because the President of the United States and some of his oligarch mates are demanding it.
He's a straightforward guy. I'm a little bit like him. I try not to lie and all that. He's a very honest person because whatever he says on the face.
While most other new FBI directors drew on their experience as FBI agents, you didn't have that. But you did write a picture book trilogy for children ages 5 and up based on your experience clashing with President Trump's political enemies. In your book, you describe your literary alter ego, Cash the Knight, as a wacky, easily bored wizard carrying out King Donald's vengeance by driving his enemies out of the kingdom. In the books, King Donald is besieged by the evil Hillary Queentown, but saved in the end by Cash. Then Cash goes on to catch mules who are stealing the 2020 election for the great King Donald from Sleepy Joe. And then in the third book, Cash takes down the Dragon of the Jalapenos, nicknamed the DOJ. Your supporters had hoped that you would graduate from imagining yourself a romantic fairy tale knight to actually running America's premier federal law enforcement agency. Alas, just as we've learned how dangerous it is to put a science-denying anti-vaxxer in charge of our public health, we've learned how dangerous it is to name as director of the FBI a man who thinks of himself as a fairy tale knight who keeps a fire-breathing dragon named DOJ at home to forcibly drive villains out of the kingdom.
So let me get this straight. At first, the files did exist, and they were sitting on Pam Bondi's desk and would be released within 24 hours. Then the files suddenly didn't exist, or at least in the way that we thought they did, and there certainly was never a list of clients. But then the files did exist, and they needed thousands of FBI agents to scrub the president's name from those files. But then his name was there, but only because it was fabricated by the Democrats and planted in the real files. And then the real files were re-released with all of the same information. Meanwhile, we get investigative reporting confirming that there are massive financial institutions covering up this whole sordid affair. And we have statements from people within the House Oversight Committee that are saying there is a really massive cover-up at play here. And then today, Kash Patel goes in front of the House Oversight Committee and says there's no credible information that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking to anyone other than himself.
Trump is in town, and this happened last night, resulting in 4 arrests. As many people expected, this stunt was claimed by Led by Donkeys, a well-known campaign group in the UK. Now, they weren't arrested for vandalism or criminal damage. Instead, Thames Valley Police arrested them for malicious communications. Now, free speech is central to the rhetoric of Donald Trump and his party, which makes this all the more ironic. So, what does malicious communications actually mean? Well, it covers sending something indecent, offensive, threatening, or knowingly false, and done with intent to cause distress or anxiety. And while this usually means electronic communications or a letter, in this case, it was a projector on a building.
Trump and his MAGA battalion or army just had a very rude awakening and bad week. So there's a fallout which stretch far from Washington to London, Brazil, and even Gaza polls are turning. So allies are rejecting him, and his so-called leadership is leaving a destruction everywhere it touches. So let's break down. So for now, I think you've seen that terrible FBI director hearing at the Senate. And there have been issues that have been raised by both the Democrats and the Republicans. I like how here we agree, but the Democrat and the Republican, this man is not fit to be the director of FBI. This is the person that fired his number 2, whose actually had qualification who worked as an FBI before had the better qualification to be an FBI director. So, and whatever the Senate, the Senate was saying is that it's the first time that the FBI has been led by a person who has no experience about how the bill works. You know, so imagine you take a head teacher to be maybe a person who did plumbing, you see, and this person comes to lead a school. You see how terrible that is, because he will be bidding his master's work. That's what is happening in America right now. The DOG, the FBI are just working in order to protect Donald Trump legacy, but they're not doing what is required of them. So I think you've seen a recent poll that has been conducted by an YourGov article, which shows that 49% of Americans think that Donald Trump is too old for the job. And that is nearly half of the country, and it's up from the last year. Even Republicans are whispering about it. So it's not only that the Republicans or the Democrats are actually feeling the same, because when the statistic was done, 49 felt that this man is too old to lead the country. And look, this isn't ageism, it's a reality. He disappeared for days, slur through speeches, forget names. If you can't stay awake in a briefing, you shouldn't have accessed the nuclear codes. Trump is just too old and is so obsolete to actually lead the United States of America. Because listen to this, this is the person that, sometimes he runs things that doesn't make sense. Who remember the previous interview where he was talking about wells, like how windmills, bring cancer? So when they were holding a pit stop with Russian Vladimir Putin, this guy didn't walk straight in the red carpet. The guy was going horizontal, left, right. However, when MAGA claimed that this guy was actually, it's just a walking style, but it wasn't. It wasn't. So, and there are people who have raised, this is the same person that actually, was talking about Sleepy Joe and how this guy was sleeping in the work. But at the same time, we can see that it is the same. So there's an African saying that says, the firewood that is the kiln, loves the firewood that is the water, not knowing that at the end of the day, it will be there. And he's one of the oldest presidents to actually rule the United States of America, because look at the Obamas who are just 50, 60, being slightly older, and other presidents. But this guy looks how his health is deteriorating faster than what you think. And as if that is not enough, Trump decided to visit UK, and it went exactly how you'd imagine, with the protest louder than his motorcade. Crowds were out, force, signs were roasting him, while Channel 4 literally ran a marathon of his lies. So you've seen that video of where this group that raised projected an image of Trump and Epstein in the castle, and these people ended up being arrested. So meanwhile, the prime minister, who looks stuck babysitting American most embarrassing uncle, let's be real, Trump didn't look like a world leader in Windsor. He looked like a punchline on the global stage, which the UK have been actually mocking. So I saw one of the interviews. I saw one of the interviews earlier where the senator was, one of the press was asking one of the Republicans' governor, I think, about the mass shooting. She was so angry. The mass shooting in even the red state. So she so angry, even threatened to throw out the journalist, claiming UK even has what you call the stabbing, knife stabbing in the city. But this one just shows how this MAGA, or this the whole idea of going to UK to be to be the baddest idea. Let's talk about the freedom of speech. You have seen what is happening in America. Right now, people are actually being fired. People spoke about Charles Kirk. It's the same is what's happening in UK, where actually, people talks about the Palestine or the Israel attacking Gaza. These people are being silenced. So it's just birds of the same feathers. So when I don't think Americans are expecting something bigger from Brazil, from UK, because these guys are just two old buddies, two old uncles who are actually going to frustrate their citizens further. And even over there in Brazil, things are getting even uglier. So after Trump and the Senate Rubio threatened a state sanction and military moves over Bolsonaro's conviction, President Lula's government are fighting back. They call Trump bluster, exactly what it is, an attack on sovereignty. So I don't know why he will go and poke his nose in other people's business. If it's a world leader, he should leave other countries to learn their affairs. So let's be clear: this is not diplomacy; it's bullying. And Trump is trying to treat Latin Americans like his personal background. And Brazil, they are saying no mass are good for them. And back home, Trump decided to write the constitution again. So in Sharpie, probably this week, he questioned whether immigrants deserve due process, like floated loopholes and third term for a third term. So legal experts were actually screaming about this issue. So this is not about restoring American. It's about bending rules that they break until they break, just to fit this ego. So you see what happened with the Korean immigrants, who were chased out. Trump even started feeling remorse for these guys who are actually did what, who are actually moved to where to Korea, because you can see what happens. Job shut down. And let's talk about DC. So he has strengthened DC again with declaring national emergency and federalizing the police, because mayor refused to help ICE with family raids. So think about that. Federalizing local cops to carry out mass deportation. That's not law. That's not law and order. That's authoritarianism. And it's a racist of its core, because these guys they want to raid families, separate families. And I think it's the best idea that the mayor refused to bend to this rule. And there's the fallout on Charles Kirk killing. So instead of mourning, the Trump allies are weaponizing it, pushing it to a censor speech, revoking visas and fire people for their opinion. So free speech group are calling it McCarthy 2.0 or McCarthyism 2.0. So this is not about protecting the conservatives, it's about silencing the dissent. And if they can do it, then they can do it to you. And finally, the most heartbreaking story and sober my emotions is that Gaza, in the last 72 hours, Israel strikes have killed over 70 Palestinians, rolled tanks into neighbors, and sparked new reports for genocides. You've seen these guys literally bombing, sending missiles, sending bombs to children who are fleeing the city, which Israel has bored to do what? To flatten down. But Trump is not even calling out Israel, you know what, for what they are doing. He's providing a weapon. And this is not leadership. This is a complexity to genocides. You know, so tell me what you think about this whole video. Is this the right man you guys thought will lead the United States of America, or this was this what you voted for?